Hello, welcome back. Today I wanted to go over what drug addiction looks like, or I guess in general what addiction looks like from someone who went through it. So this is Kid Cudi, or Scott Ramon Seguro Miscudi, better known as a stage name Kid Cudi, often stylized as Kid Cudi, is an American rapper, singer, songwriter, record producer, and actor from Cleveland, Ohio. He has widely been recognized as an influence on several hip-hop and alternative acts. Cudi's first full-length project, a mixtape titled A Kid Named Cudi, caught the attention of American rapper producer Kanye West, who signed Cudi to his Good Music label imprint in late 2008. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing that or not. But let's take a look at this clip. So he was on the Joe Rogan Experience talking about his experience with drugs. And I thought it was a very honest conversation and something that we rarely see. So let's take a look.
I want kids to look at me and understand what not to do. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was dealing with my drug issues back in 2010, 2009, you know, I was just heavy into cocaine. And it was like a big thing for me. Yeah. Cocaine. And it was like a really big thing for me. And it was something that, you know, kept me level. It was something that I felt like I needed, self-medicating. And you know,
so you felt like cocaine kept you level?
Yeah, man, because I had this whole technique where I don't know if I even should get into this. I don't even want to talk about this. These
you don't
kids
have to
fucking run around and do it, you know. But let's just say I got into like, you know, what I would call like, you know, a trifecta, which was, you know, I would wake up in the morning, I would, you know, do coke immediately, even before I had cereal, breakfast.
Whoa.
And then I would have a
like
beer.
Coffee.
And then I would smoke weed.
Beer?
So like, I never wanted people to know I was doing cocaine. So the beer and the marijuana leveled me out in a way where I was able to walk in the streets and talk and seem as though I wasn't on anything. But deep inside.
So I think that's when
she like leveled him off with a lot of.
I think when you know you're hiding it from your friends, whether it's cocaine or like in David Cho's case, video games, it could be alcohol. Like
when you lie, when they're like, "What have you been doing?" or "What do you do?" Or
yeah, I think
starts lying about it.
Our body naturally feels like that shame of having to answer questions that you don't want to answer, and that's when a substance or whatever can become addictive. Is when you have no control over saying no to it. You just have to do it, and I think hiding it from your friends
and controls you,
right? And hiding it is like the first symptom. Like, oh, you should try quitting, or just stop doing it just to see if you can.
Yeah, because you're dependent on it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. When you begin hiding it, that's like one of the first signs of dependency.
Yes.
Oof. It's a slippery scope. Okay, let's keep going.
You don't even have to be hiding it. Some people will try to point it out. But when you get to hiding it, it's pretty
he's
bad.
purposely hiding it though.
Yeah,
he's trying to seem normal, even though it's the first thing he does. It's the first thing he does when he wakes up in the morning.
And I'm just like, zing, you know, with my face and just like, yeah, that's right. You know, but what it did for me, it completely numbed me. I didn't care about anything and I was a robot. But also with being so numb, it allowed me to go out and meet my fans and be out in the street. So in a twisted way, it did a positive thing for me. And that's why I didn't see it as an issue. It was like, damn, today I went walking in Soho with no place to go, and I was just high-fiving fans and shit. Like, it was just the most, you know, amazing experience, something that I never get a chance to feel because I'm just like such a recluse, and I'm just, at that time, was just weirded out when people recognized me and just didn't want to go anywhere, you know?
So he brings up like his use of cocaine, like it was helping him like go out and do things. And so I feel like in society, we have acceptable, like, mood altering things to help us go out, and that could be like alcohol at networking events. It could be like SSRIs or antidepressants.
Well, cocaine is a lot of people use it and
right.
abuse it, and they're very high functioning,
right?
Because it makes them network.
So just like opioids, like there is a purpose to them. Like for like pain, if you need to manage pain or anxiety or something, it'll help you get out, but it's easily abused. And so I feel like
because some people just try to take it seasonally. Like some people, like during seasons where you're working 100-hour weeks and you're like, I can't be falling asleep. And you're like, oh, just a little line.
So that's
like, let's go. Like, then why not? You know, instead of.
That's what I wanted to bring up, though. It's like rarely do people have the honest conversation of how it helped them. even though like it was like they needed to quit it, it still helped them.
Oh, we only
do
see
something.
the miserable part, the
Right,
breakup.
no, but it still helps
courting
them
phase of the
do something
drug.
that we normally prescribe like antidepressants for.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you need help going out. It's like there's a prescription drug for that, but it's like
That's how people got
That's-
addicted to opioids.
right, but
like
that's the
you said,
difference
or
between the
Xanax,
legal
or-
mood altering like substances that we
Oh, yeah.
allow people
Put
to
it in a
have and
pill
the
press
illegal
a
one.
stamp on it, and you're like, good to go.
Basically.
They stamp cocaine too in the kilos, though.
Okay, we got to keep. There's a lot to this clip.
Yeah, that's an issue with substances that can help you in some ways, but they're ultimately detrimental to your health or your well-being or your ability to keep it together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I abused it. You
Well,
know, it's
what-
not like the guy who like goes out with his buddies in spring break and it's like, hey, let's do a bump, and it's like, hey, cool, you know.
Those guys aren't real.
Yeah.
Those guys are only people in movies, man. Everybody else is just too broke to keep going. They just don't have the amount of money that it requires to be a fucking full-time cokehead.
Yeah, it was definitely expensive, man. It was definitely expensive, but you know, I
Did you find, like, while you were doing it every day, like, was there a thing that made you stop? Because that's usually, there's
Well, I
like a
got caught.
moment. You got caught.
And then people started to know I did it, and
Did you
that
get
wasn't.
arrested?
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
like, damn, now everybody knows I do it. This is not cool anymore. Like, it's only cool when no one knows. 'Cause-
Coke is a weird one, right?
Yeah, it's like I didn't really let I didn't let the public make me feel bad about it though. It was just kind of like, fuck, guess I can't do that no more. And then also my daughter was born, so it was like, it was like two kind of life lessons back to back that I experienced in 2010. And my daughter's birth and being arrested were those two things, because I think I had already started toning down my cocaine use at the beginning of that year, but then I was the king of like something tragic happening or something I felt was tragic or stressful, and then spiraling back into it, just needing any excuse to be like, all right, I'm gonna go do cocaine now because I'm upset and I'm dealing with something I don't know how to deal. It's just like my way of copping out and avoiding my issues.
Wow.
So it was like a block. It was like maybe a couple months would go by, I'd be in Hawaii, working on some stuff with Kanye, and I never did cocaine or anything around those guys. That was like my time to detox when I would be away, because if you do coke, you're either doing coke with other people, or alone. And I felt weird about traveling the world and every place I was at, asking people where the drugs was at. So like it was something that I did, at home at a certain time, and which was, I was able to like kind of keep it together and go out and work on my music and be into it. I had a system. It was a weird, sick system I developed, for myself, where I was able to be cool if I wasn't in New York, but then when I was back in New York, it was on, because it was just like being at home in the apartment alone for hours on end just really just got me,
So
That's why they usually try to get addicts out of their full situation, because there's too many triggering things in their environment because it became a habit that all those triggers is just too hard to stop.
Right.
So you have to remove yourself. And once you remove, it's like all of a sudden you're not fiending for it anymore.
yeah, and the triggers that cause you stress, like you're immediately drawn to the things that alleviate it, which is your
And you
your
already
habits.
know how to
And so,
get it so quickly.
I think we were talking about this before, where it's like when you're hiding it from people, that's like a first signal of dependency. But then when you're kind of looking for excuses to use it, that's like another step towards like dependency. And then
Well, it's also just not wanting to be held accountable.
well, right, and then creating a schedule to support the habit. It's like you're not even trying
Because
to,
he's already making the excuses of what his friends would say. Like,
Yeah.
it's abusing, you're dependent on it, whatever. It's like, no, I got the control. I control it. I
Yeah.
only take it at this place, at this time. I only do it like, so
Right.
that's the
But he's not even letting them
fake
know
of the
it's his
control. I
it's his
know,
own
but
schedule
in his
for
own mind,
himself,
he's
right?
justified it until it was no longer under his control, until he got, he says he got caught, so it was no longer fun. But that's the thing. Then now everyone's watching and
Well, if you have to
seeing
create a
everything.
schedule to maintain a habit, you really have to take a step back and look at how dependent you are on that substance. Like, and we were talking about it before. It could be
regular prescription pills on the daily because, like,
no, exactly. It could be
and
anything.
it has to be on.
It could be prescription pills. It could be food. It could be alcohol. Like we were talking about this before. Like before when
Yeah, it
we were
doesn't have to
watching
be
this.
just illicit drug.
Right. It could just be anything you have a dependency on. There are like even video games. Like there's just like or gambling. Like anything's addictive, really. If you let yourself be too dependent on it. Okay, let's keep going.
And doing it just kind of like, oh man, I could just put on Leaky Lee and just chill out for hours by myself, and it's all good.
It's interesting that like the arrest made you want to stop because was it because like the feeling like, oh shit, an event has taken place, like this is obviously a big sign that I'm going down the wrong direction. I'm dealing with the legal system now. I'm getting arrested.
Nah, it was just more like
change of pace.
This is not Scott Mescudi. How in the hell did I let this become Scott Mescudi? How in the fuck do I got people looking at me like I'm not Scott Mescudi? And I know what it was, and I know how to fix that. And I went and made. I didn't like how people were looking at me at that moment in time.
So they were looking at you like you're a coke fiend.
Yeah, crazy, cracked out dude. Like everywhere I would go, it was just these looks, and I was just like, man, I just did a little blow. What the fuck?
So I think what he nails.
Well, also, I don't think a black man gets as much leeway as like a white cokehead.
Sure.
I mean, a wealthy.
But I think he really outlines a clear strategy on how to get out of addiction. And what he did was he looked at himself and he's like, that is not my identity. That is not who I am. That's not how I want people to look at me.
Label me like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And in his mind, at least for him, and it must, he drew the line to, I know what the problem is and I know how to fix it.
Yeah,
and,
because it's like once you're off of it, then no one can accuse you of it. And you're like, look,
right.
I've been clean. Like,
and so it seems like, a good tactic
not part of me.
To break dependence on substance is to figure out, I mean, it's not easy, obviously, but it's to figure out like who you want to be and how you want to, and what you want to look like to others.
Yeah. Whether they know the truth or not, like what.
Yeah, I think he found it in a really profound. I mean, obviously, he had to go through a lot of pain of like being arrested and like and everyone figuring out his dirty little secret. But it's like he got over it.
Yeah. What can you do?
Get off my back, you know what I mean? Like, y'all motherfuckers acting like y'all ain't never did a bump. Get out of here, man. Like, it was so, I was just like, are you kidding me?
People love to be sanctimonious.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When it happened, I wasn't like,
who's throwing them stones?
On, the next Complex interview I did, like, I have a statement that I issued here. This camera, okay. Yeah. I'm really sorry to all my fans for you guys knowing that I do cocaine now. Or I used to. I don't do it anymore. I'm sorry if I let anyone down. Fuck that. Fuck that. It was really just like, I'm dealing with some shit. If you don't understand it, I don't give a fuck. This is how I was surviving. If I didn't do it, I would have blew my brains out.
Well, I like how you describe.
But that's a good
it's like
point right there.
He knew he had to keep up a momentum maybe for his work or for whatever he would, like to go out and meet his fans. He didn't want to.
Right.
And it's like.
That's the assumption I think that people have to not let themselves fall into, is that they're doing it like maybe recreationally or doing it to party or doing it to escape, when really they might just be doing it to survive, to like get by, like day to day.
Well, and to remain and fight for who, like you said, when he was like, that's not me. And I think it changed. Before it was like helping him to find him, to beat him, to get over his like recluseness or
but
whatever.
That's what he's asking.
And then it took over.
But that's what he's asking for the benefit of the doubt, is like, don't look at that as if that was like a character trait of me. Look at that as I was going through a hard time at the time. That was helping me cope.
It was a little crutch.
Sure. Yeah. And it
got me through.
He recognizes.
And now I should have let it go when it was done.
Right, so he recognizes the debilitating aspects. Obviously, he had to get over it, but then he also recognizes like there's an honesty about this that needs to be that conversation needs to happen so that people understand,
how people get hooked.
Right, and how to get over it. It's like, this was my problem. This is why I was doing it. But after I got over it,
it's never miserable in the beginning.
Sure, go.
It's like a honeymoon relationship. All we see and
I like how you
divorces.
Describe it too, because you're very honest about the positive aspects of the effects, and I think that's super important.
And this was my contract, by the way.
The release.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, man.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
I'm an actor. Everything's a prop.
You're very method. You're very honest about the positive benefits of it. Like, people have this idea like you shouldn't talk about positive benefits of any drugs, whether it's harmless drugs like marijuana or dangerous
Tell
drugs
that
like
to the
cocaine, maybe
advertisers.
even especially dangerous drugs like cocaine, because the reality of what you're saying, your experience and the positive aspects of your experience, it's like he's promoting drugs when clearly you're doing just the opposite.
Yeah.
You're talking about how you needed them and used them and they helped you, but the reality is it was because you were dealing with an issue.
Right.
And it just helped mask the issue, but
Right.
it did help.
Yeah.
And to lie and deny that, it clouds the issue. For people dealing with their own drug issues, dealing with their current drug issues or their past drug
Yeah.
issues, people aren't honest about it, man. It puts people in this weird place where, like, you know what? If it wasn't for fucking meth, I would have never started this business. Look, the reason why I'm doing so well is because I got on meth. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
there's
I
some
think
people that can say that probably.
Now you
Well,
started
the only
get
reason
off.
why I can sit here and say that is because, like, I've been 4 years clean, man. I'm not like.
Right, you're not dipping back in.
Yeah, and and I can
Is
speak
he in
about
LA?
it candidly, and
New
it's
York?
not something I'm weird about, and I've just grown so much since then. And I also know that the more I talk about it, you know, the more it'll help somebody else who might be dealing with it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
You know, when you're in that, it's probably just, it seems like you can't get out of it because it is like a thing. You know what I mean?
A cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you get caught up in it, and you know, I just know with kids listening to me talk now, it could be helping a lot of people. I'm not like one of those people now that used to do cocaine, and I'm like, oh, you're bad if you do cocaine, or cocaine's bad and you shouldn't do cocaine. Man, I don't promote any drug, but I'm not judging anybody if they do it.
Right.
You know, it's not like a big deal. Like I did it and I just abused it in a way, and it didn't benefit me. It didn't benefit Scott. I didn't like the person I was becoming. There's some people that could do this shit and they could live and do it in moderation and it doesn't affect their lives like how it affected mine. More power to them. They got superpowers if you ask me. But I just have that, you know, it's a history of drugs in my family. It was like my blood was waiting. It was like, yeah, like let's go. And I know that about myself. And I just had to make that
No,
choice.
That's just what cocaine does.
No, but also it's
what
just
cocaine
his
is
story
like,
of how he recognized addiction and got over it, but also how he's honest about like what got him to there in the first place and that he was struggling. It's like his message to people who are out there who are struggling. He's saying like, I don't judge you for your use, but this, you know, that's how I got over it. And I feel like, yeah, like these are the conversations we don't hear because we just preach like abstinence in the United States. It's just like, don't do drugs. And it's like,
Oh, we're
what
so
if you're
prudish in
already,
the US.
no, it's like,
Same with the sex.
and if you already are doing drugs, you're only, what are your options? Rehab? Like that's right. It's like, you don't really have people talking about like what got them into it and how they get over it.
Rehab in the U.S., man.
No, right, but that's like I think honest
Don't go to Florida
conversations about
for
people who
rehab.
have struggled and used it and abused it and then got over it. It's like that's more of the conversation we need to start having now because like especially with like shelter in place, like how I wonder what the percentage of drug use has gone up just because like no one can do anything else.
Well, I get mad when people are like, I'm not trying to condone or promote. I'm like, you know what? Let's go ask Pfizer or Merck or whatever. What's in their budget for marketing and advertising? Because they literally advertise their drugs on TV. And those things that they have previously promoted has caused public health epidemics in the U.S.
Yeah,
over
people-
and over again. And it's like so. I can't believe he still feels bad about that. I get it.
Well, people
The whole
who
war on
travel to
drugs.
the United States, they're surprised at how many like pharmaceutical commercials they see. They're like, what is this?
They're like,
Anyways,
yeah,
all right,
and
let's
it's
keep
"Do I
going."
have a heart issue? Should I go ask my doctor? Maybe. Like,
I had to make a choice, and I think that's with anything. Cigarettes, and which I'm 5 months done with now. You know, you just have to make a choice,
quit
and I made that
cigarettes.
choice. You know, for myself, for my own health, for my daughter, for her future, for my fans. You know.
Yeah, a bunch of people quit cigarettes because of their daughter. Anthony Bourdain quit cigarettes because of his daughter too. I just realized, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like my
guess I could
my
say that
father
since
passed
she was
away from
already
cancer. All my uncles passed away from cancer, and my father died when I was 11. You know, so that was an experience. You know, for me, that kind of like traumatized me in such a way. But I can't. You know, when I got older, I started to do everything that my father was into. Like my dad smoked Newports. I started smoking Newports at 17. You know,
I
my
started-
dad's, he loved MGD, Miller Genuine Draft. I fucking drank MGD, Miller Genuine Draft. You know, it was
In
like
tribute to
I,
him?
no, I just kind of was becoming my dad in a weird way. And it wasn't, you know, it was like one of those things. There's, you know, I don't know. I just kind of, I never really had a relationship with him. So the only memories I had was just this guy, like, you know, like this
Drink beer
guy
and
was
smoke
just
cigarettes?
so cool. He had his cigarette and he had his beer, and he was always awesome, and he was there for me as a man and up until he left, you know. And I think I kind of got caught up in that. And that's something that, like, you know, I can't say the image of my father drinking and smoking is what made me drink and smoke, but I can't say it didn't.
Right. Do you think you took like comfort in it maybe? Like
I think maybe, yeah, for sure. I think everybody takes comfort in smoking cigarettes. It's like, you know, one of those things.
yeah, that's the grand trick that cigarettes pull on you. They give you comfort in that need to replenish. Like you give you a little stimulant from the nicotine and all the chemicals that are in the cigarette, and then you're so addicted to it that you have this weird stress when you don't have it. And then when you smoke it, it relieves that stress. And you think that it's actually calming you down, but all it's doing is feeding the dragon.
It's like a drug. It's anything.
Oh,
you know?
it's a drug.
Yeah.
What's a
They
cigarette?
put a lot of stuff in American cigarettes that when I was addicted to cigarettes, if I didn't get American cigarettes, anyways, I used to take like all kinds of drugs. I used to.
Well,
I mean, I take a lot less.
I think
They were all
he
prescribed
outlines
to me.
like the fear addicts might have of having to quit, which is like, can I live like a normal life, or like can I feel okay? And like him like being sober for like 4 years, I think shows like, yeah, you can abuse drugs, but you can get over it.
Well, I think the whole thing is once it becomes a part of who they are, because it has helped them become who they are, they feel like then they'll lose a part of them. Like, and he was like, I don't want this to be a part of my identity. Like,
Yeah.
where other people, they're still at that phase where it's a crutch. Like,
Yeah.
I
And
can't
so I think
keep doing what I'm doing. And so it's like quitting the drug might mean quitting whatever their work is or whatever, like, you know, more than just the
I think-
drug.
right, and I think
for some people.
the bottom line is just like people should just be honest about their addictions. Like it's an okay conversation to have, no matter what part of your addiction you're in. Anyway, so I wanted to end this episode with a clip of the great Mitch Hedberg. This is a reference I see on Reddit all the time. So if you don't know it,
Is he a
this is where it's from.
comedian?
I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too.
All right. I hope you guys like this episode. Leave a like and subscribe if you did. And don't forget to smoke your coronavirus
CBD.
infection prevention medicine.
Hemp.
Yeah.
Flower.
And if you don't have buds, we're your buds. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.